Hello and welcome to Scribes and Songsters. I'm Veronique Mandel. Today we have a local mystery on our hands. Kingsville author Darrow joins us once again to tell us about his second novel. Darrow's first mystery novel, The Book of Answers, was a finalist for a Crime Writers of Canada Award of Excellence and an Amazon 5-star read. The Book of Christmas Joy is the second in the series of Reverend Thomas Book Mysteries, and this story is set in a fictitious Southwestern Ontario town on the shores of Lake Erie. Could sound a little bit like Kingsville, but we'll find out. Welcome back to Scribes and Songsters.
Well, thank you for having me.
And congratulations on your second book.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's been fun.
So before we get into this book, just remind people about your first book, The Book of Answers.
Well, in The Book of Answers, there's this 40-something, recently widowed United Church pastor, kind of in the doldrums of life, kind of in grief, trying to figure out what happens next. And he's pushed back into life by a death. A film crew comes to the church where he's serving, and they want to do a video shoot. They're looking for a ghost in the church, and they bring in a search dog, a cadaver dog named Zeke, and he doesn't find a ghost, but he does find a dead body that pops out of the wall, and that sets Tom and everybody else in the story down this a twofold journey. One part of it was the whodunit part. The other part was that poor congregation trying to figure out how to get ready for the Easter holiday when their church has been declared a crime scene. So that was the Book of Answers. And in that story, Tom begins a kind of a fledgling romance with the cadaver dog's trainer named Annika, and he kind of recovers a broken relationship with his daughter Hope. And yeah, there's a lot going on there. Mm-hmm. But I also want to say that for those who don't have a chance to read that book, the new one, The Book of Christmas Joy, can stand on its own. So you don't have to read two. You can just read one if you choose.
Excellent. Now, I mentioned that the book was a finalist for the Crime Writers of Canada Award of Excellence.
It was. And that was quite exciting because that was an award for unpublished manuscripts. And while that was a work in progress, my writing mentor had encouraged me, first of all, to join Crime Writers of Canada, and then second, to enter my manuscript in that competition. And I thought, well, it's worth a try. But what a boost to my confidence.
I bet.
And to maybe I was onto something here when it made it from out of 30 or 40 possible manuscripts. It made it to the top 10, and then it made it to the final 5. That felt great.
Yeah, for sure.
For a first-time mystery writer.
Yeah, absolutely. That encourages you to at least think, I guess I can do this.
Well, I can do this, or I can learn how to do it. And that's what it's been. It's a real journey of learning, because I don't think anyone really knows how to do a thing until you dive in and start working on it.
Right.
And writing a book was just like that, learning how to do it.
Yeah. And an Amazon 5-star read.
Yeah, and that's all due to lovely people who did what I asked and wrote reviews. And if you get enough good reviews, then Amazon scores you high. Yeah.
Does it translate to these awards and the 5-star review? I mean, does that translate to sales?
I think it actually does, especially with Amazon, because I think their algorithms push the books that are doing well, either already in sales or in reviews, higher in the queue of what you see when you search something out. So I should say that I published my book independently. Yep. And a lot of people are doing that now.
Yes.
And what I learned before I got into that was that the average sales of an independently published novel in Canada in its lifetime is probably something around 200 to 250 books. So the Book of Answers, my first independently published book, has now sold over 1,000 copies.
Cool. Congratulations.
So I thank you.
Yeah.
So I feel pretty good about that.
That's terrific. And based on the read that I've had of The Book of Christmas Joy, you might be headed that way again. And we'll talk about it in a minute. So this is part of, is it a continuing series about the Reverend Tom?
Well, I had at least 3 in mind when I set out to do this. So this guy, the Reverend Thomas Book, is the protagonist in my books, my mystery books. Mm-hmm. So these are books about book. And every book about book has a book in it. So the Book of Answers was a hidden away journal that Tom found, and it had answers to help him solve the mystery. And in the new one, the Book of Christmas Joy is actually Tom's daughter, Hope, is keeping a journal with a mind to writing an essay for a course she's in. And,
I thought that was a very interesting device because it really carried the storyline through this diary.
Well, yeah, and the fun part about that was writing in her voice, trying to figure out what this 20-something university student would sound like, and what mattered to her. That was fun, and it did kind of break from hearing things mostly from Tom's point of view. Yeah.
And she almost sort of did a synopsis of stuff that had happened, and then put her own thoughts to it.
Mm-hmm. So what I mentioned earlier about learning, and one of the things I'm learning about the craft of a mystery novel is pacing. And in pacing, it can't be boom, 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 action scene, action scene, action scene. So what some of my mentors have suggested is you write the action, and then you need an opportunity to reflect. And that's the characters sort of figuring out what the heck's going on here. But it's also an opportunity for the reader to process what's been going on.
Yeah.
So something big can happen, and then Hope would write in her journal how it hit her, and that also was a device to let me tell more of her backstory and Tom's backstory, because the things that were happening touched her in the present and in the past. Yeah.
I thought it was interesting to learn that the Reverend Tom wasn't invincible, that he was very emotionally affected by his mother's death.
One of the themes I picked up on in the first book was this young 40-something minister who had recently lost his wife to brain cancer. So there was the journey of grief in that book. And in that first book, we see that his mother was a strong support to him as he was working his way through that. So when she dies, that journey of grief continues, but in a different way.
Did you see that as an important aspect of a reverend's life, that those kinds of things happening in his life would give him more empathy to his congregation?
Well, I think that's absolutely true. And it's been my real life experience has been the losses and the changes, the moments of grief in my life definitely informed my pastoral ministry and hopefully made me a more compassionate pastor.
And then you mentioned he met Annika in book 1, but he's going through a bit of a weird quandary with her in this book.
Well, so again, the journey of grief, and many people I've talked to would say this rings true. When you've lost important people in your life, the risk involved in going deeper in a new relationship, as much as you may care for the person, as much as you can see a future with them, it's risky to put your heart out there again. And I think that's what Tom is going through. Like, does he have the guts to dare to go deeper in a relationship, knowing full well that could mean loss again? And that, I think that's something people have told me in the reading of the book that felt true to them.
Mm-hmm. So I know we got right into the characters, but could you give us like a short synopsis of the book? Because you obviously don't want to give everything away.
So on the Amazon site where this book, The Book of Christmas Joy, is available, the sort of the cut line is a new town, a new church, another dead body. So Tom has left his congregation in Oakville. It was kind of hard to stay on there when in the first adventure he implicated a powerful person in the congregation as being involved in a murder. didn't make him popular with everybody. So he's moved to a new church. He's moved to this community I call Sun Parlor, a smaller town, hopefully sort of a calmer, less busy kind of pace of life. And he's getting ready for Christmas. His daughter Hope has flown home from university, and they're planning a quiet, cozy Christmas. And they see lights that shouldn't be on and flashing lights in the church next door. So Zeke leads them over to the church, and the lights vanish, but they get in the sanctuary, and the massive artificial Christmas tree that it was the centerpiece of the sanctuary has toppled over, and from underneath it there's this pool of blood seeping out. So we know we're back into another mystery. So then again, only this time it's Christmas time, and there's a countdown. There's about 10 days till Christmas Eve, and Tom is facing it again. How will he help this congregation cope with their church being a crime scene? And the reader gets to see whether or not Tom's going to get pulled into solving another mystery.
And I thought another interesting device that you use is the countdown to Christmas. So I thought that was interesting, and you wanted to see how close to Christmas is it going to be before this sort of gets resolved. Well,
and that's growing up as everyone has thoughts as Christmas gets closer. How many sleeps? How many days? How many weeks?
Now, was it Hope did she mention A Wonderful Life? Because I thought there were sort of kind of parallels.
That was deliberate. I referenced a number of sort of classic holiday Hollywood Christmas movies, and some songs, some music as well. But Hope notices that the parsonage right next to the church where they're living kind of looks like the old Grenville house in It's a Wonderful Life, and that was deliberate. And I put the house and the church on the corners of Sharp and Grenville streets. It's just as a nod to that movie. And there are a couple of aspects to the story which I stole directly from It's a Wonderful Life. I won't say very much about that because it would take away some of the fun.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And I thought, the Reverend Tom, you just sort of really understand him and see different sides of him. And I thought the scenes with the Sunday school elves was really cute.
Well, and that was fun to write.
Yeah.
And that was one of the places in the writing where I really had a chance to draw on life as a pastor. And some of the most enjoyable, most memorable moments I had would be telling stories to kids.
Yeah.
So that's a scene that actually happens in a little metal building out on a Christmas tree farm, and that scene is and that barn is at the Workington Christmas tree farm on Mercia Road 8, just outside of Leamington. And my wife and I help decorate that barn for Christmas every year.
No kidding.
So setting a scene in that barn was lots of fun. Actually, there are 3 scenes in the book that happen on that Christmas tree farm because for reasons I won't disclose now, the church becomes unusable.
Right.
And the people who own the Christmas tree farm offer the use of their big barn for the big Christmas Eve service. But you get a little foreshadowing of that for this Sunday school party that happens out. And well, what better place for a Sunday school Christmas party than a tree farm?
Absolutely.
Just the sights and smells and the magic of Christmas all around you. And so clearly that's why Tom would be looking at these little kids and seeing them as elves.
Yeah, it was cute. So before we go any further, do you have a favorite passage you like to read?
Well, I did pick a passage, and it's fairly early in the book, and because we were talking about, well, I'm wearing my Christmas tree tie.
Yes, very nice tie.
Thank you. This is the scene in which Hope, Tom's daughter, is working on decorating their parlor for Christmas. Hope, you doing all right up there? Tom tried to keep his tone light. He craned his neck to peer up at his only child. Hope had one foot on the highest rung of a 6-foot aluminum stepladder. The ball of her other foot was balanced on the top cap, which bore the manufacturer's "not to be used as a step" warning in caution tape yellow. He set up the ladder in the parlor, close to the front bay window. Hope stretched her arm up towards a spot on the ceiling directly above the place she'd chosen for the Christmas tree. If the ladder tipped, would she land on Tom or crash through the bay window? Tom gripped the side rails and kept his feet squarely planted to brace the ladder against tilting. The century-old hardwood floor was uneven. Hope? He wondered if she could hear him over Rosie O'Donnell and Elmo belting out, "Do you hear what I hear?" The Rosie Christmas CD had been one of his late wife's favorites. "I'm fine, Dad. I got this." The ladder wobbled as Hope strained for just a little more reach. What was it with Victorians and their high ceilings? "I just want to stick this tape right here." Tom knew this wasn't the time to say she could have extended her reach with a yardstick and stood a rung or two lower. Working together on the tree was a way to move past their supper time squabble. The disagreement had been sparked by the moving boxes Hope saw in every room on the main floor. She'd kicked at one tucked under the kitchen table. "You've been here 18 months. When are you planning to move in?" They'd had to shift some boxes to the basement to make room for the Christmas tree and the ladder. The ladder wobbled again. Tom imagined catching Hope, or at least cushioning her landing. "I want the other line to hang down a bit to the left," Hope said. "They're different lengths, so each will have its own space to fly." She'd made 2 origami angels in her art elective. The first, in Mardi Gras purple, green, and gold, was for her mother, who'd loved New Orleans. The other she'd folded from a page out of an historical atlas edited by her gran. Hope's wish was to suspend both angels over the Christmas tree with lengths of dental floss. Tom's wish was that Hope would not raise her other foot to the ladder's top cap. "I know what you're thinking, Dad, but I'm fine." "I'm thinking your mom would love your use of floss," Tom said. "That's how she hung all our pictures." Rosie's duet with Elmo gave way to one with Gloria Estefan. They sang "Gonna Eat for Christmas." Hope said, "I'm almost done up here." Tom said, "I'm sorry I have to go out again, but it seemed like a good idea to still do Bible study tonight." Hope said, "It might help folks to have something normal." "That's what Jesse said." Hope said, "You like him. That's cool. After what happened at your last church, it's got to be hard to know who to trust." "Even people with good qualities are capable of doing terrible things," Tom said. "There usually aren't clear villains or heroes." "It's too bad you don't have time for a movie tonight." Tom said, "Maybe something short if it's not too late when I get back." "What do you got in mind?" "Heroes and villains. I downloaded a Batman cartoon. I thought we were doing seasonal movies." "It's Christmas with a Joker," Hope said. "Robin wants to kick back and watch It's a Wonderful Life. But Batman says criminals don't take a holiday." Tom said, "Pretty hard to argue with that, especially after last night. Here we are again. Another holiday, another church, another... How are you doing with it all? We haven't really talked about..." Hope looked down at Tom, even as her voice rose. "Will you take a holiday, Dad? I don't mean from church work, I mean from playing detective. Or are you already digging into what happened to that poor old lady?" Tom heard layers in her tone, in her questions. He hadn't told her about the possible connection between Gloria's death and the crime family that had threatened them in Oakville, or about the invitation from Lawrence and the other cops to be part of an unofficial part of the team. "Right now, I wonder what other movies you have in mind. Classics from your childhood like Christopher the Christmas Tree and Bucky the Christmas Beaver?" Hope said, "More like Die Hard and Christmas Vacation. And Home Alone? Dad, you know I hate that movie. The idea a family could fly off to Europe and forget the little boy just makes me sick. We don't forget people ever, which is why we'll have your angels flying above the tree. Are you coming down now?" "Yeah, I'm done. And I think they look great, but Dad..." Zeke padded into the parlor and stood beside Tom. His big head was turned to one side like he was thinking hard, and his ears were fully peaked upwards. "Hope, look out the window. I'm seeing those weird lights flitting around in the church again." Tom felt the sides of the ladder shifting in his grip as Hope stepped down. She rubbed between the German shepherd's ears. "Hey, Zeke, finish your nap?" Tom lifted the ladder to one side and stepped close to the window to peer out. Zeke joined him, pressing his nose to the glass. Hope said, "Do you think we should go over there?"
And eventually they do. But so you mentioned Gloria, the church benefactor who was found dead. Tell us about her character.
So she's called Gloria Sharp, and the church is called Sharp Street United. And so it's the Sharp family that has endowed this building, this church, and Gloria is kind of in charge of the trust fund that basically pays all the bills at the church. And she's one of those, almost every church I've ever been part of and everyone I've ever heard about has at least one character, real life character, kind of like Gloria, who's kind of crusty, but probably good-hearted, although she doesn't let it show very often, and is generous with her gifts to the church, but sometimes those gifts have strings. So Gloria was somebody the congregation depended on, but didn't necessarily have a lot of friends in the congregation. So when she's found dead in a pool of her own blood under that Christmas tree, who did it? All kinds of suspects, because she rubbed a lot of people the wrong way.
And the church committee, that's quite a group of people. Interesting, contrasting, not always friendly to each other.
Well, and that's fun to write about too, because after 35 years in pastoral ministry, I've worked with a lot of church boards, a lot of committee people, and again, basically, for the most part, good-hearted people. But when there's strong wills and strong commitment, sometimes there's a bit of clashing, and that makes it fun to write about. And it's also, if you don't have even minor conflicts in the story's not that interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there was enough amongst them because you weren't often sure, who was going to be friends and sort of who was going to deke each other.
Well, and I'm glad you said that because our hero, Tom, is relatively new in this congregation. He's been in it for 16, 17 months, and he's still trying to figure out who's on what team. And in every kind of community, every kind of organization, there's little groupings or cliques, and when things get tense, those cliques form up tighter, and they kind of work for or against each other depending on the situation. Mm-hmm. Tom's still trying to figure out who fits where and where he fits.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other character that I thought was interesting was Penny. Now we don't want to sort of give everything away about Penny, but the way you set her up, you weren't sure if she was going to be a good character or a bad one. And
that's totally on purpose. And Tom gets to say that in the passage I just read for you, that most people aren't all good or all bad. Mm-hmm. People are complicated. So even the villain in the piece could have some good qualities, and the heroes in a story can also have some qualities we might look at and say, well, I don't know about that.
And another device, and you mentioned it, the lights in the church, and the daughter keeps seeing the lights in the church, and we don't find out till a bit later on what's causing them. But it was interesting, wasn't it?
Well, again, that's to create some intrigue, create some curiosity, to keep a person turning the page. And because in the first book, Tom thought he saw a ghost, and that comes up in this story. When there's strange flickering lights in the church, that's an underlying question. It's like, who's seeing what and what's really going on?
Mm-hmm. You reference many places in Essex County. So what do people think about that, especially the people around Essex County who read your book?
Well, when I wrote the first one, the Book of Answers, I started writing it while we were living in Bronte Village in Oakville. So I was very deliberate about including a lot of geography from there. People from here who read that book said, "Well, that's nice, but we don't know Oakville." So now, when I've very clearly said it in our county, and people can recognize the roads, people seem to enjoy that. And I called the community where this happens Sun Parlor, and I did that because it could be Kingsville, could be Leamington, could be somewhere in between, not quite. That gave me some freedom. And there are some fictional characters in this fictional sun parlor who do some not nice things, right? So I didn't want people to think I'm writing about their neighbors.
Them.
Yeah.
Not like Peyton Place.
No.
So you're retired, and so do you get to spend a lot of time writing?
Well, I retired at the end of last year, and I didn't really retire because I took on finishing this book as my job. So I moved from working full-time in the church to working full-time in my home office, working away at the book. Yeah.
That must be such a pleasure. Are you working on a third?
I am. So this may be unusual for a trilogy. I'm working on a third book, but it's actually the second in the series. It'll fall between the Book of Answers and the Book of Christmas Joy. And at this point, it's called the Book of Strong Suggestions. Now, this is a book I started writing during COVID, and it's turning out to be more of a thriller than a mystery. And I'm having a lot of fun doing it, but I got about halfway through writing it, and I was out for a walk at Point Pelee with my wife, and she said, "Well, you did Easter. Have you thought about doing a Christmas book?" So I thought, yeah, that's a really good idea.
So you've got Halloween, Thanksgiving.
Yeah. There are lots of occasions you can hang a story on.
So where can people buy your books?
Well, the book is available at Storytellers Bookstore on Ottawa Street in Windsor. Yeah. It's at Biblioasis. It's at River Books in Amherstburg. It's at the Art Society gift shop here in Kingsville, and it's on Amazon.
Well, thank you so much, and congratulations on all your successes.
Well, thank you, Veronique. Thanks for having me again. And I do hear this is a good book as a Christmas gift for the mystery reader in your life.
I heard that too.
Yeah.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. Many thanks to our guest, Darrow Woods. Thanks to our Scribes and Songsters team, producer Brian Sweet and technical producer and editor Gary Glass. Grateful thanks to Tony Toldo and the Toldo Foundation, and to Neil and Tina Quiring for their support. Thank you for watching. Hope to see you soon, right back here on Scribes and Songsters. I'm Veronique Mandel. Bye for now.